Welcome to today's webinar, Online Fundraising Best Practices for Nonprofits, brought to you by our friend and partner, Axelrad, and presented by Jay Wilkinson, founder and CEO of Firespring. Now, we are just so excited to partner with Claire. She is the principal of Clairification and is an incredibly powerful fundraising coach with over 30 years of frontline development experience, and we are just so glad to have collaborated to provide this session on effective online fundraising. She's the founder of Clairification School, which is an amazing resource with over 600 articles, more webinars like this one, and tons of other resources to help you achieve your mission. Many of you already may be members of Clairification School, but if you have not joined yet, you are really missing out. It is one of the best bargains around for only $100. Other programs like this charge upwards of $800, so that is a huge value. You can learn more and sign up to join at clairification.com. With that said, I would like to ask Claire to join us for the session and say a few words. Claire, are you there?
Boo! Happy Halloween, everybody, and I hope that you're all appreciating that Firespring's colors are Halloween colors, so it's very timely to have Jay speaking to us today. And I wish I could see all of you who are wearing costumes, but I'm sure you all look great, scary and maybe cute. We are so fortunate to have Jay here with us today. This is, I think it's the third time that Jay has presented a webinar for the Clairification community, and I keep having him back because he is so terrific. I always take notes, and I always have pages of notes, really useful information, really practical stuff. So you are really in for a real treat today, and you're going to end up with all sorts of goodies that you can share with your donors and make them feel really good so that they want to stick around and give to you year after year. And what could be more timely at this time of year as you're preparing for year-end fundraising than some tips on online fundraising. So I won't take up any more time. I would like to warmly welcome Jay. Thank you so much for being here. And Julie, I mean, if you want to go ahead and introduce him, I think that would be terrific.
Thank you so much, Claire. And once again, we are just so thrilled to be working with her. She is such an amazing fundraiser and has such great experience. So we're so glad about this partnership. And with that said, your presenter, Jay Wilkinson, is the founder and CEO of Firespring and has been conducting extensive research for years, exclusively for nonprofits, on the proper use of technology in the web. Jay is considered a leading authority on how nonprofits can leverage web-based tools to manage their day-to-day operations, communicate effectively with constituents, and increase fundraising. So I'm very pleased to have Jay available to share this valuable information with you all, and I'm happy to have you participate in this session as well. With that said, it is my pleasure to introduce and turn the presentation over to Jay Wilkinson.
Julie, thank you so much, and welcome everyone to this special Halloween edition of fantastic content that I think you're going to really get a lot out of today. I'm going to geek out today over some metrics and stats that nonprofits use, and I think that as a nonprofit professional, you're going to get a lot from it. Had to share this photograph from when I was a kid. I'm the cowboy in the middle here with my brothers as I was growing up in a small Midwestern Nebraska town in farm and ranch country, and Halloween was always one of my favorite events. The snow is starting to fall here in Lincoln, Nebraska. As I look out the window, I see these big, giant, gentle flakes just making their way to the ground. It's really excited. I used to love snow days on Halloween. I know I was an odd kid, but it made it all that much more fun to go out and tromp around in the snow. But again, welcome to this session, Online Fundraising Best Practices for Nonprofits. I too want to just do a quick thank you and reiteration of Julie's points, and just say thank you to Claire. Claire is one of those people in the nonprofit world, as I get to travel around the country and work with nonprofit professionals all over. When Claire is present at a conference, she's a force to be reckoned with. Everyone knows Claire, everyone knows of Claire and the work that she does. And as a person who obviously has been exposed to the work that Claire does, because you're here today, you've probably found out about this session through Claire's community. I just want to say you've aligned yourself, you've hitched your wagon onto the right horse here, because Claire does so much good in the sector, and all the work that she does in fundraising and coaching, even as just a speaker and a trainer, to be able to come into her world of education is really a blessing today. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm really excited to share with you where we're going. A little bit about us before I get into a full head of steam here. We're in Lincoln, Nebraska here at Firespring. We have a business that is focused on leveraging our people, our products, and our profit as a force for good. And at Firespring, we do that through our Power 3 program. I like to share this because I am encouraging every business that I come across. It's become kind of one of the platforms that I'm stomping about on, trying to make more businesses and more entrepreneurs aware that there is another choice. A choice that away from just focusing on a business of leveraging your customers for profit, but the kind of work that Claire does through her company and the kind of things that we do here at Firespring are focused on making a difference and moving that needle. To that end, we have our Power 3 program, where we give 3% of our products to nonprofits that are just getting started, 3% of our profit. So we actually take 3% of our top line revenue and give it back to nonprofits here in our community in Lincoln and Omaha. And then 3% of our people. So every one of our team members spends one full day volunteering for a nonprofit of their choice. And it's something that we are really excited about and spend a lot of time focused on. So today we're going to dig into online fundraising best practices, but that conversation has to start with our website. The work that we do with online fundraising, for the most part, would be substantially minimized if we didn't have a strong foundation as our online presence. So we're going to start there, and then I'm going to share with you 7 steps to online fundraising success, the simple stair steps to think about. I'll share with you 5 metrics to measure fundraising performance. As I said early on, this is where we get to geek out a little bit over some simple formulas and measurements that if I were starting in a nonprofit today, in whatever role, if I were in a role where I could influence and affect the fundraising outcome, these are the 5 things that I would measure and measure myself against over time, just to see how we're doing. We'll talk a little bit about the donor retention problem and why email marketing is still, to this day, an essential part of the puzzle. And then we'll finish up today with action steps and Q&A. If you have questions at any point in time, just send them across through the questions panel, and I'm going to stop at the end and ask Julie to share with us whatever is relevant for the entire group. One more thing as we get rolling here. I would encourage you to tweet about the session today. If you hear thoughts or concepts or ideas, if you have an epiphany or a takeaway, tweet about it, send it over. I'm going to ask our community manager here at Firespring to, I'm going to ask her to choose one of those tweets. As long as it has the hashtag Firespring, she'll be able to identify that it's out there. So just use that hashtag. And we're going to send a free copy of my book, Captivate and Engage, the definitive guide for nonprofit websites, to one person. So go ahead and tweet away as we're going through the content today. I want to start with this premise. Nonprofit Hub, this research mostly comes out of a 2015, late 2015, early 2016 study. We know that 78% of nonprofit organizations say that they designed their websites for $750 or less. And this is an issue. This is a challenge that we have in the nonprofit sector. We spend so much of our time focused on how can we do more with less. Have you heard this before? It's like the mantra, the rallying cry of the entire nonprofit world. We're trying to do more with less. I hear it all the time. And I would like to contend that, well, there's a better way to do that. Maybe we should be focused on how we can just be more effective with what we have and be able to leverage and grow. I'm going to come back and talk about that here in a few minutes, because this is what we see. Nonprofit organizations that get people to their website, we finally get them there. And what do? We send them right back off the website to go to some other organization's website or some other module or widget or feature. I refer to this often as the WordPress dilemma, which is a dilemma we have in the nonprofit sector, because so many of us have developed our websites through WordPress. And it's a fantastic tool. WordPress is a great way to build a website, but it also has its challenges. So many of us are using, again, the free modules and plugins and things that are available to us just because it's the simplest and easiest way to go about it, rather than building a website where we keep everybody on the website and keep them contained and keep them engaged with our tools right through the website. So I'm going to walk you through this. We know that 82% of donors visit a nonprofit's website before giving. Actually, that was done. That's also a stat from Nonprofit Hub. We did a survey with them of several thousand nonprofit donors. We worked with several organizations through their donor list, and 82% of all the donors said that they will visit a nonprofit's website before they give. And I find that really telling. It's so important if we are in the world of trying to help nonprofits connect and engage with more donors. We have to make sure that our website at the foundation is solid to the core. And I'm going to share with you now the 5 elements of a powerful and engaging website. We're going to move through this really quickly today because it's not the core content, but I want to make sure that this is reinforced as we get into the core content today. Number 1 is the structure of our website. This is how people intuitively find their way around, how they navigate through the website. And a well-done website will always be built so that I can get from where I am to anywhere else I want to be in 3 clicks or less. And we do that by providing different ways to navigate: a search tool, a site map, a pull-up or pull-down menu, different methodologies and different modalities of navigation. Number 2 is design. Design is about making sure that our website is built so that it tells the story of our organization. That's really all it needs to be about. It doesn't need to be having the latest and fanciest design. It's about having images and headlines that clearly tell the story of who we are and what we're about. So when someone lands on the website, they instantly get it. They know who you are and what you're about. Number 3 is content. Having deep, diverse content that makes it possible for people to find the information they're looking for when they come to your website. And in 2017, almost 2018, I can't believe how fast time has flown. We must have a website today that has a content management system that is easy to use. It should be drop and drag simple, point and click easy. We should be able to just update and modify the content ourselves, and every nonprofit should have a minimum of 3 people, whether they're employed or volunteers or board members, whoever they are, but a minimum of 3 people who have the ability to update and modify the content on your website. 4 refers to the functional tools that we build into our website that make it not only possible, but in many cases necessary for constituents to use those tools as a way to engage with us. For example, register for our events through our website, sign up to volunteer, and come to the calendar of events and scroll through them and connect and engage with us directly. These functional tools are critically important. And then number 5, vitality. Simply put, this refers to the perception of the freshness of content. The perception of the freshness of content. There's a formula for this. It's really simple. You post dated content with a headline, so you have the headline with the date right next to it. On the front page of your website, show 3 occurrences so my brain knows this is going on over time, and make sure that you post them never more than 7 days apart, so once every week. If you follow that simple formula, your vitality will go through the roof, and we've never seen this not have double-digit increases in the repeat visitor count to a website. So when people come to your website and then you want them to come back again, just introduce this vitality component, making sure that you post dated content on the front page, show 3 occurrences, never more than 7 days apart. You'll be amazed at how many more people will come back to your website after visiting once. I'd like to say that your website, it can be beautiful, it can be affordable, it can be mobile friendly, it can be all of these things. You shouldn't have to choose between affordability and effectiveness, because it's really all about the return on investment. It's not about the cost. I know nonprofits that have spent $50,000 or more on their website, and I'm not saying you should do that. I know those who have that have had a massive return on their investment because they've increased their donations or decreased their expenses by that number or higher, 2 or 3 times that. I know other nonprofits that have spent $500 and thrown their money away because they ended up with nothing more than an online brochure that had a few photographs and a mission statement. Who spent the most money is the question. I would contend that the person that didn't have a return on investment spent more. So it's not about how much we spend, it's about what we get back for what we spend. So let's just keep that in mind as we think through that. If you would like to learn more about this topic, I have an entire session where we go down the rabbit hole and spend a lot of time on captivating and engaging constituents with your website. We'd love to share that with you. One more thing as it relates to the website that's really important, and it very directly ties to our topic for today, online fundraising. All of these different ways that people come to your website, let's say they click on an email marketing link, or you've sent out your annual appeal letter and you have your domain listed. Instead of sending people to your home page or your front page, instead send them to a page that allows them to take action on whatever it is that you want them to do. We call these landing pages, pages that make it easy and seamless for your constituents to just click and engage, like this one from No Kid Hungry. I land on this page, I know exactly what it is that they want me to do as a result of being on this page. Again, we have a session that's very specific about this topic. If you want to learn more about how to build and why to build a landing page strategy into your website, I would encourage you to attend that. All right, so let's dig into our core content for the day, using the internet to raise funds and build donor relationships. I'm going to share with you 7 simple steps to online fundraising success. And you can frame a lot of things around these 7 simple steps. And the first one is really easy. It's gathering email addresses, both online and off. One thing that we often forget about, nonprofit professionals, and any business for that matter, if you create a relationship where a donor has given money, someone has opted in to your email list on your website, or they've attended your event by paying to attend. In any of those examples, those are all examples of people that now have engaged with your organization by their choice, and so now you have the right to include them on your mailing list. As long as you are using the proper tools, which are really important, we'll talk about that here a little bit, as long as you make it easy for them to change their email preferences and to opt out, you're using a professional tool, having the ability for people to come into your website and opt into your newsletter is one thing, but it's okay to include people on your mailing list if you have consummated a relationship with them by the fact that they've participated in your events or they've given money to your organization. Keep that in mind and gather those email addresses, not just through your opt-in form on your website, but all the different ways that you connect with your constituents. Number 2, we have learned from our focus groups. We've had more than 1,000 constituents in focus groups over the last decade. And we've asked them, and these are board members, donors, people who are served by nonprofits, volunteers, a wide swath and a wide pool of people who engage with nonprofits on a regular basis. And we've asked them, what do you want to see on the website as somebody who supports this organization and wants to see them win? The number one functional tool that they say every single time, this has been consistent for over 10 years, is they want to make it easy to come and register for your events. And I'm going to break a few hearts when I say this next thing, and I apologize if this hurts your feelings, but having a PDF form that I can print out, fill out manually, scan, and email back to you, that is not online registration. Online registration means that I can fill out a form, I can plug in payment information and consummate this transaction right here and get a confirmation email back. It should be very professional and seamless, but having easy online registration to your events is number 2. Number 3, make a commitment to becoming a thought leader. What does it mean to be a thought leader? Well, by definition, it's one whose views on a subject are taken to be authoritative and influential. As a thought leader in your community, what that means is that when people are having discussions around the topic that relates to the mission or the cause or the purpose that you exist for, that the very next thing in the conversation, and when they bring it up and start this conversation is, well, you know, the Alzheimer's Association of Lincoln has some great content on this on their website. You know, let's say you're standing in line at Starbucks and the person in front of you is talking to their friend about their mother who has Alzheimer's, and the grandkids are really struggling with it. She's trying to figure out how to talk to them about it. There's some great resources online, et cetera. If your organization comes up in those kind of conversations as it relates to the cause or the mission or the purpose of your organization, that means you become a thought leader. It's challenging to go through this process. I have an entire session dedicated to this issue called the power of blogging and thought leadership for nonprofits. But consider the possibility of making a commitment of evolving your organization into the place where in your community it is the most known asset and the most important voice and perspective on whatever cause or issue you serve. Number 4 is make sure we think about using social media not as our home on the internet, but as a way to extend our message. Social media can be incredibly powerful, and it can be incredibly leverageable if we use it in the right ways. We can take the information that about how we serve the community. We can take the relationships that we're stewarding in our community, and we can leverage those in a fantastic way. And it's not just about Facebook. It's about LinkedIn, which I believe is the most underutilized tool for nonprofit professionals, one that has the most potential that we're not using. And it's also about the potential of, depending on the type of organization, if you're naturally wired for engagement, Instagram is a great potential outlet for you to connect with your followers. In any case, you have to have a presence somewhere in one of the above, and use social media as a way to extend your cause. And then also make sure you can be found. Number 5. Who doesn't want to be found? We all want to be found, right? And our websites and our content, our organization in general, we need to be findable when people are looking for us. So we have to make sure that our website is optimized for keywords, and it's optimized in a way that people can find us easily when they're searching for us by name or by physical location. And it's about just spending a few minutes digging in and learning the process of what we need to know in order to be found. Number 6, this is like mind-boggling to me that there are so many, more than 50% of nonprofits in the United States today still use some form of manual data entry of some sort, using an Excel spreadsheet or using your Google Contacts as your entire donor database tool, where we're not using a relational database that makes it possible for us to manage how we're communicating with the people that are so important to the evolution of our organization. It's critical that we use a professional donor database tool of some sort. And number 7, this one sounds obvious, but it's not obvious in the way that I see it carried out day in, day out, week in, week out with nonprofits, is that our online and our offline efforts need to be coordinated and integrated. Let me back up for a moment and say this. The nonprofit world in our lifetimes will always be about eyeball to eyeball, face to face, hand to hand, heart to heart as we connect with the people in our community. The stuff we do online is simply there to augment that, to help extend it so that more people can access it more of the time. It's not about replacing those face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball connections, and we shouldn't see it as that. It's an integration of the two, where we are connecting with people and then using digital technology, social media, the web, and all of the other components that we have available to us as a way to stay connected and deepen those relationships and those connections. But we have to think about integrating those efforts. It's again, mind-boggling to me how many nonprofits today are still either A, stuck in the way that they've always done things, or B, they've abandoned the way they've always done things and are trying something completely new, neither of which are the correct answer. It's important to continue to do the things that we know work, but continue to iterate. You know, we have banners hanging up around Firespring that say, find a better way. It's about iteration and learning and always being open-minded to seeking a better way to do something, but we don't just we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't just say, well, you know what, the way we've been doing it isn't as effective as it used to be. Let's just try this. We keep one foot rooted in the way that we know the tried and true methodologies, while 1 foot is exploring new tactics. And it's the best balance, integrating the online and the offline efforts. That's the key that I want to make sure is very clear. So again, now I'm going to share with you the 5 metrics. If I get involved in a nonprofit today, and I'm asked to come in and help the organization get a handle on where we are and to put a strategy in place to get us to the next level, I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I'm going to major out of the gate. But before I share the metrics themselves, I just want to share a quick concept with you, and that is the power of peer groups. There are many people I know in the nonprofit sector that are part of a peer group, but most are not. And a peer group is simply putting together a group of like-minded peers, other nonprofit professionals. They could be in your community, or you could set up something where you get together, say, once a month or once a quarter, whatever rhythm you think makes sense for you and your group, and you exchange ideas. I'm involved in several peer groups on the business side of the world, where I have a couple different groups, one in the speaker community and one in the entrepreneurial community, where I will get together for a couple of hours, once a month with one group and once a quarter with the other. And we kind of share issues, we share topics, and we share challenges, and we talk through what each of us have learned and what we're doing about it. It constantly keeps all of us on our toes. We're always trying to, again, iterate and evolve as professionals in whatever we do. And what I'm about to share with you, these 5 metrics, are perfect metrics to align yourselves with other nonprofit professionals. Again, maybe they're in a similar, if you work with people with a certain issue, if you work with animals, if you work with children, whatever, find people that are in similar situations that you don't feel are in a competitive landscape. And most of us in the nonprofit sector don't feel competition from the other organizations that even across town. Yes, we're competing for the same donor dollars, but we want, the rising tide raises all boats mentality is pervasive in the nonprofit sector. For the most part, we all feel that we are out to help the community improve, not just with our particular issue. So find a peer group that is a really good alignment for you. And then consider, as I'm sharing these metrics with you, sharing the results of your tracking over time. So if you can look back a year, 2 years, 3 years, and share these metrics with your peer group, it's powerful, the conversations that happen as you work together on how to improve across the board. So the first metric that I'm going to look at, if I'm just getting started in a nonprofit, is a simple metric that we hear talked about a lot. It's the average gift size and number of gifts. So this is the metric that we use when we're forecasting on how to calculate the potential of a particular fundraising event, or maybe even the entire year. And the formula works like this. It's the total money raised divided by the number of donations. So we just need to know how much we raised for this specific or particular campaign and divide it by the total number of donations. So let's say we got $100,000 that we raised. There were 2,000 donations. That's a $50 average gift. And the average gift size is something that is a widely discussed metric in the nonprofit sector. And is something that I think is really important that we know. When someone says, hey, what's your average gift size? Do you know how to answer that question for your organization? Do you know what your number is? And do you know what the difference is if you have 2 different events, throughout the year? Do you know what your annual average is versus the annual or the specific event average gift for a particular event or walk or gala or whatever it is that you have? We should know those numbers, because we should always be trying to increase both the number of the total number of donations and the average money raised on each one. Number 2, this metric is giving by activity and return per activity. We use this metric to determine which activities or other things that we're doing, a fundraising event or whatever, are the most effective. So this is very specific to help us understand the different things that we do throughout the course of the year, which ones are most effective at returning on the bottom line for us. So the metric is giving by activity divided by cost per activity. So let's say on a particular event, you raise $10,000 and it costs you $2,000 to put that event on in hard cost, and we'll talk about soft costs here in just a moment. That's a 5-to-1 return. It's a pretty good return, 5-to-1 return. If we can get that kind of return at every event, we're going to do more events, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. Now, when I say soft cost, it's important on this one that we include the cost associated with putting on that particular event, but we exclude costs that would have existed anyway. So for example, if you have a full-time fundraising professional on your staff and that person takes an annual salary, you should not include a portion of their salary on this particular activity. It's not, there are other places where it makes sense where you have to include that. On this particular activity, the question you ask yourself is, well, would that expense have been there anyway, even if we wouldn't have done this particular event? And if the answer is yes, then you don't include it. So you include only costs that you incur as a result of putting that particular activity on, the hard costs associated with it, and exclude soft costs. It gives you a better number to look at because you want to pull each event out and look at them separately. Now, I'm very well aware that some events are going to take up 40% of someone's time over the course of a year, and another might only take up 5%. That will come in another metric. But in terms of just analyzing and assessing the value of each event on their own as a standalone, we want to know giving by activity divided by cost per activity. That helps us understand where we stand. Number 3 is one that we hear talked about all the time. It's a conversion rate, and a conversion rate applies to many, many different things. So how many people signed up for our event? How many people that came to our website actually clicked on a link? How many people that received a letter from us responded with a donation? We want to know what our conversion rate, how many did we convert into the call to action that we wanted them to take? So it's the number targeted divided by the number converted. So for example, if you have an email marketing piece and it goes out to 1,000 people and 100 of them click on it and take action, then you have a 10% conversion ratio. Now, I get asked all the time, Jay, what's a good conversion ratio? And I hate this answer when other people give it, but I'm going to explain why. There is no right answer on that. It can be all over the board. I can give you an example, and I will, of an event where you want 90% or higher conversion. Let's say that you are an organization that has one of those extraordinarily large board of directors. So there are 50 people on your board. I'm part of a few boards that are that big, that have a lot of people on them. And at the beginning of their tenure as a board member, the one thing that you explain to them is we do this annual retreat every year where we go off site and we do strategic planning for the entire upcoming year. And you ask everybody in the group as they come on as a board member, here are the expectations of a board member. One is that you find a way to be available for our annual strategy planning thing. So they know that up front. The time comes. It's time for the annual strategy discussion and the off-site event. You send out an email to that group, and you link them to a landing page that allows them to fill out, I will attend, I will not attend, and here's what I'll have for lunch, and any other details you need from them. And when that email goes out, you're expecting probably a 95, 98% conversion ratio. Now, conversely, let's say that a board of director comes to you and says, hey, we're willing to send out an email on behalf of XYZ organization, the organization they sit on the board of, for Giving Tuesday this year. We want to send out an email to all of our clients encouraging them to join us in supporting XYZ organization. And you say, that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. And they set up this email and they send it out, and they might get maybe a 2 to 3% conversion rate out of every 100 that go out. They might get 2 donations. And if you get 3%, that would be a remarkably good return in terms of a conversion rate on that kind of mailing, where when it comes cold and these people have not donated before to the organization, they may not even have heard of the organization before they receive this email. So I've just given you 2 examples where a 3% conversion ratio would be good, and a 97% conversion ratio is barely acceptable. And how is it that we can say, well, this is what you should always try to do? So every single project, every single event, every single issue, you have to assess differently in terms of how you convert and what the conversion ratio should be. But the bottom line is you want to improve it all the time. Something that we do know is that up to 70% of people who begin to fill out a donation on online donation form or portal of some sort will abandon that form. These are people who went to your website, who clicked on donate now, and then they actually don't go through the entire process. It varies anywhere from 50 to 70% depending on the sector that you're in. And that is, again, blows my mind that so many people start the process and then they bail out. Well, we're pretty smart people. We know until we put our credit card information in that it's not final. So here are a few tips to reduce that abandonment. Number one, use as few fields as possible on your donation forms. The more information you ask for, the less likely someone will feel compelled to go through the entire process and fill it out. Include a short, compelling message. Remember that, again, we're smart people. Once we get past that donate now button and we get to that next step, we know that you haven't captured this yet. You don't know who I am yet. You don't have any idea who this is yet at this point because I haven't filled out information. Yeah, you might be taking a cookie on my computer. I may be running under a cloaking mode or whatever. It doesn't matter. In any case, I still need to be sold. Even after someone has clicked the donate now button, we still must have short, compelling messages to convince them to take this step, to take action on what they're about to do. Number three, make sure you test it on mobile devices. The best way to do this is to have a responsive website design so that when people come to your website on a mobile device, they have an experience that is as good as the experience they have on their desktop computer. So test it. More than half of all of the people who access your website, whether it's giving money or not, are going to be on a mobile device now in today's world. And number four, don't send your donors off to some other website somewhere to donate. Sometimes it may seem like a good idea to send them over to whatever website to give over there. We know that it substantially decreases the likelihood that they're going to donate if they feel like they've been taken to another place before they've, again, consummated that donation. So those are just 4 quick tips on how to reduce some of the abandonment that we see in those donation profiles. Number 4, the 4th metric I want to share with you is the cost per $1 raised. This is my favorite metric to share in my peer groups. If I'm in a group of nonprofit fundraising professionals, and we're meeting once a month or once a quarter and sharing information, this one has the most value to me. This is used to calculate how much money it takes to raise $1 for the organization. So it's simple, total cost divided by the total raise. So if our budget for fundraising is $250,000 this year, and we raise $1 million, it's a 25 cents to $1 cost. And that's what we're trying to understand. We want to know what that outcome is. So this is where you do include the soft costs associated with fundraising. So if you have a fundraising salaried professional in your organization, their salary, their cost of labor should be factored into this. Anything that has to do with raising money. Now, you should not include the cost associated with actually delivering on the services that you provide to the community, whatever those services are. That's a separate budget. This is just simply what is the money that we're spending on donations and fundraising? What's the investment we have? So the cost per $1 raised is a really helpful formula to know the answer to. And as I'm going through these, think about how you might be able to even go back in time and track backwards on these and come up with a number back for the last year. You don't have to just do it all moving forward. Most of this data that I'm sharing with you, you could just go into your financial records, and with a little bit of work, you could probably do a 3-4 year timeline on how you're doing in all these issues, because we can track those finances in the past. Number 5 is donor retention. I made it number 5 because I believe it's the most important thing that we should be focused on right now. Number 5, donor retention, means that we are trying to do whatever we can to understand who gave money to us in a current time period and also in a past time period. So, for example, we would take the number of donors who gave both in 2016, last year, and the previous year, add them together, and then you divide that by the number of donors who just gave in 2015. So, for example, if you had 800 people who gave in both 2015 and 2016, and you go back in the very first year, in just 2015, only you had 1,000. That was an 80% retention rate. When we started to ask this question, I remember doing this 10, 12 years ago. I was at an event in DC, the National Nonprofit Congress, and we had a room full of maybe 500 fundraising professionals. And I remember asking the question, who knows what your donor retention rate is? And there were maybe, out of the 500 or so in the room, maybe 20 hands went up. And then I asked, okay, would anyone like to share what your donor retention rate is? And like all of a sudden, all those people put their hands down so they're half cocked, because none of them were confident enough in their number to want to share it. So I just asked them to guess. What would you guess? And I had several people guess. The average guess was around 80%. So around 80% is the average guess on the retention rate of the average donor. And man, were they off. I want to dig in and talk about this a little bit, because we now have data that shows this. The Fundraising Effectiveness Project, the most current iteration of it is the 2017 version. It's sponsored mostly by AMA, and several other organizations have been involved to help. But the cool thing about this study is that it actually takes all of the subjective work out of the picture. And now we can see from inside the tools out. So all of the major fundraising professional tools like Bloomerang and Donor Perfect and Razor's Edge, and on down the line, all of the major donor database tools that exist out in the world all participate. And it's aggregated data, so we're not compromising anyone's privacy or any one particular organization's data, but we're aggregating the data, and we get information back that tells us, so what is the real retention? How many donors attrition every year? And in 2017, we know that 55% of the donors attrition, meaning that there's a 45% retention ratio. So what we're saying here is that nearly 6 out of every 10 donors from the previous year did not donate again in the next year. And again, it's mind-boggling to think about the impact of that. All the work that we do to bring these donors into our world. I envision kind of the donors. I'm on a treadmill, I'm running as fast as I can, and on the front of the treadmill are all these donors that are coming into my world, but then I happen to look back over my shoulder, and 6 out of the 10 are just flying right off of the back of the treadmill. That's the way it happens so often. I have an entire session built around this particular topic, which we don't have the time to dig into today. But the 6 key retention drivers that can double lifetime value, the 3 donor database must-haves, and 3 methods for creating repeat donors with some really specific intelligence that has been developed by fundraising professionals around the country. If you're able to join us for that, feel free to just go to the website and sign up when you have a moment. I do want to make one more really key point before we start to wrap up today. Email marketing continues to be a critically important tool for nonprofit organizations. In fact, email marketing is more effective today than it was 5 years ago, than it was 7 years ago, than it was 10 years ago, if it's done properly. But here's the rub. The vast majority of us are not doing it properly. We're sending out these ridiculous digests full of stuff that's happened. So it's an email that has 8 things listed in it. And here's the 8 things that I want to share with you about what's gone on in our organization over the last month. And we send it out on the second Wednesday of every month, or whatever our rhythm is. We do those rhythms, by the way, not for our constituents. We do them for us, so we remember how to do it, or we remember to stay on top of it. And we send out these benign, uninteresting, just content-filled emails that is really benefiting no one. The best way to do email is to make sure that when the person receives this email in their inbox, feels something of value in there. Tom Ahern, a good friend and somebody who I consider to be one of the along with Claire and a few others in the entire fundraising world. Tom, he gets it done. I mean, he just has so much value what he brings to the table. Tom said your newsletter isn't about getting people to read your articles. It's about delivering joy to your donors repeatedly. And I couldn't agree with Tom more on this. If I am getting an email marketing piece from someone, I want to know that I want the piece that shows up in my box to lift my spirits, to make me feel better about my involvement and my engagement with this particular organization. So we sometimes refer to these as impact stories or stats that really raise the bar, that show how much impact that we're making, so that I know that the contributions I've been making have value. You know, Tom says this all the time as well. We all know that people don't give to nonprofits, they give through nonprofits. So we must build our content and our email marketing materials in a way that compels them to connect with the organization in meaningful ways. And it's not about just rehashing in digest form all the stuff that's gone on in the last month. It's about being very specifically providing them with something that adds value to their day and that creates an image and impression of this organization that they can be proud to be part of. So again, if you want to learn more about that, I do have a session called The 5 Secrets of Email Marketing Geniuses, where we go into the detail on that. Would love to have you join us for that if you'd like to learn more about how to pull that off and make it happen. All right, a few action steps before we turn the corner and take some of your questions here today. If you have questions, make sure you send them across now. Understand and apply the 5 elements of a powerful and engaging website. Focus on return on investment, not the cost. It doesn't matter how much something costs. What matters is how much do we get back for whatever we put in. Provide easy online event registration tools. It is the #1 functional tool that a constituent wants you to provide them on your website. Commit to becoming a thought leader and make sure that when people talk about or think about whatever your cause or mission is, that they tie it back to your organization. Use social media as a way to extend your cause and optimize your website for search so that people will find you. Use a professional donor database tool and measure your key fundraising metrics. Again, I encourage you heartily to consider the possibility of forming a peer group that you can use these tools, these fundraising metrics we just talked about, on an ongoing basis, so you have a basis of conversation to really dig into some really meaningful learning that you'll have with these peers that you're going to pull together. And then make sure that your email subscribers feel like insiders, that when they come to their inbox and open it up and there's an email from your organization, rather than feeling this anticipation of disappointment or uncertainty because they're going to click on something that's 3 pages long but has really no relevant content for them, they're going to feel, oh, last time I opened one of these, it brought a tear to my eye, or I really thought differently about something. So make sure that you're building that joy, that feeling of joy when people receive an email from you, and keep learning. Attend Firespring webinars regularly. Sign up for Clairification School, a fantastic program. Again, as we're turning the corner here to take questions, one more just thank you to Claire and the entire community behind Clairification. We are very excited to be part of this educational opportunity today. And speaking of that educational opportunity, our mantra at Firespring is just that. It's to educate without expectation. This is the industry or the world that I've committed the bulk of my adult life to. I love being part of the nonprofit sector. I love knowing that the work that we do is influencing and affecting others so that they can go out and make a difference with what they're doing. And we are constantly focused on finding content that helps nonprofits evolve. So our education without expectation mantra is really important to us. So it's important that I mention that for the next 2.5 to 3 minutes, I'm going to educate with some expectation for just a couple of minutes, because I do want to share with you something that's really exciting that we're working on at Firespring, that we're evolving. I've shared with you that the vast majority of nonprofits design their websites for less than $750, and it's mostly out of this mindset of always trying to do more with less. And the result of that is that the average nonprofit in the US today has to start over on their website every 2 to 2.5 years. They just start over because their go-to geek, the person that they were leaning on heavily, got another job, or they had a child, or they went to school, or whatever their life situation. Life happens, and they've got to move on. And then we turn and find the next person that is in our midst, in our environment, and we plug into their intelligence. And nothing against those people. I love them. I adore the go-to geeks that help nonprofit organizations. I really appreciate the work that they do. I've been in that role in most nonprofits that I've served with. But we've got to get over that. We've got to get around that so we can sustain our growth. And we have lots and lots of educational content that we'll dig in and share this with you. But let me share with you a little bit about what we're doing to fix this problem. It starts by taking your existing content, what you have today, using a content management system that we've developed, and taking it and plugging it all into this new website environment. So you can just do it yourself. It's a DIY project. And then it's bundled with powerful email marketing tools. So you don't have to go pay for some other email marketing system out there somewhere. Event registration tools that make it possible for everyone who comes to your website to sign up and register for an event with relative ease compared to the way it used to be. And it's not a PDF form online. The ability to become a thought leader through the blogging tools and the news feeds that we provide you with as you're getting started. The landing page templates that are built into the technology, so you click a button and you launch a landing page, and it follows the formula, so you're going to build it right every time. All the important components of having a call to action. You strip out the navigation on the footer and the header. All the things that are fundamental are built in. And then the ability to do search engine optimization so people will find you, the tools and the education on how to use it, and then built-in online donations right through the website. As a B Corporation, it's our mentality and our focus to help empower nonprofits. So accordingly, we offer the lowest processing fees that are available in the entire market, in the entire United States. It's not about trying to maximize profits. It's about trying to maximize effectiveness and efficiency. So the tools that are built in are the cheapest and the lowest cost that are available in the nonprofit sector. And then we layer on top of all of that a fundraising boot camp. It's a partnership through Nonprofit Hub just to kind of help give you some guidance as you get started. And legendary support and training. It's all about making sure that we have the people to support it. And with that, if you're interested in learning more about it, you can sign up for a no obligation free demo, and that will automatically qualify you for all of the great partner relationship stuff that we have with Clairification. One more thing real quickly. Firespring is here to help you kick butt and take names on Giving Tuesday. We have some resources that are absolutely free. Just go to firespring.org, kick butt, and download our Giving Tuesday guide. It's coming up on November 28th before we know it. So it may be too late to start planning for this year, but it's never too early to start for the next. And to that end, I would encourage you to consider going to our Giving Tuesday webinar series. We had 6 different webinars in the series, and they're available as a recorded session where you can just click and view them on your own time. And there's some great content there about how to start to build a strategy for 2018 with Giving Tuesday, and I would encourage you to check that out as well. All right, that's all I have about Firespring and about the content. Julie, what questions have come through that we might want to address?
We do have quite a few questions here, so I'm just going to start here from the top. Should the cost per $1 raised include grants or just individual giving?
The cost per $1 raised should include grants. Let me back up for a moment. If you're in a peer group and the other people in that peer group, and you're trying to get a metric that is something that you can apply uniformly, have a discussion about that and ask the group, should we include grants or should we not include grants? Because you want to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples and not some other fruit. So just make sure you're consistent, and whatever you choose to do is really up to you. But the standard methodology, if you're tracking this information for your own use and you're just tracking it year over year over year, and if your organization is set up to work on applying for and accepting grants, then yes, those grants should be included in that. I presume if that's the case, you probably hire and pay for a grant writer, someone on your staff, or maybe a subcontractor that you work with who helps you prepare and present and submit those grants. So you're going to have costs associated with most of those grants, at least most of us do. So I would recommend that if you're just doing this for your own internal use, that you do include the grant money, but make sure if you're doing a peer group that you're all consistent, you're all applying the methodology the same.
How do you make your email subscribers feel like insiders if you're continually putting new information up on your website? How do you balance the two?
Here's the key. When you have an email marketing program and you're using that as a tool to communicate with your constituents, always communicate through your email marketing program first, and then after it's been released and sent out to your audience, a day or two later, put it on your website. You should never post something to your website that's important unless you first communicated it with your community through your social media program. That's what we're talking about. If they're part of your email marketing program, if they're part of that email group, they're always going to hear it from you first through email, and they're never going to be able to log into the website and say, well, that's been out there for weeks. I don't know why, they think that it's exciting that that's available now. So communicate it first through to your email audience, the people that have opted in to be part of your community, and then post it on your website. That's the key with that.
Regarding donor retention, should donor retention rates be specific to particular donors from year to year, not gross number of donors?
Yes, they are tied to specific donors, not gross donors. So we want to know specifically, did Jay Wilkinson give in 2015 and again in 2016? This introduces challenges. We refer to these as tracking soft credits, where like 1 year, 2015, I might give in my name personally. The following year, in 2016, maybe I wrote a check out from Firespring and made a donation through the business. Well, we're connected. So you want to make sure that you have the software tools you use have the ability to connect those what we call soft credits and make sure you're giving credit where credit is due, and it will make your numbers for donor attrition much more accurate if you're able to track those properly.
We have a few questions around what to include as you consider things related to costs to execute on initiatives, as well as how to consider for donor retention. So I'm just going to kind of lump all of these together. One is wondering about salaries, costs to execute a mailing, if we charge for membership, if that should be calculated in, and then the cost of the website per dollar raised. How would you address all of those different pieces?
Again, on the cost per dollar raised metric, I encourage you to include every cost, anything that is associated with fundraising for the organization. The intent behind that metric is to understand what it costs us as an organization to pay for and put all the resources together to essentially raise money from the public. So anything that you can tie to the fundraising activity of the organization should be included in that number. And then, of course, you're comparing that to the actual dollars raised. So again, going back to the earlier question, if you have a grant writer on your staff, their labor is going to be included and the grant money would be included as well. If you decide not to include the grant dollars, then you would exclude labor associated with the people that wrote grants. You want to make sure that you're lining, again, up apples and apples. So everything that's associated with fundraising should be included in the cost per dollar raised. In the other metrics that I shared with you, and in particular, the metric where we're talking about the giving by activity and return by activity, those are very specific to the activities themselves, where we just want to understand how much did we put into and how much did we get back from this particular activity, and you want to exclude the soft cost from those. On the cost per dollar raised metric, everything should be in there. The kitchen sink should be in there. The only thing that's excluded from that are monies that you expend on behalf of the organization related to delivering on the services, the programs and services that you provide. Those are different than fundraising activity.
Can you elaborate on what constitutes an online effort versus an offline effort?
Sure. Online efforts are email marketing. It's anything with digital marketing. If you're using Facebook or LinkedIn, or any social media for that matter. Your email marketing program in particular is what most of us think of as online marketing. Your website is online marketing. Anything that has to do with the digital communication that you provide. Offline marketing would be the events where you bring your constituents together face-to-face at an event or gala or walk. And an event is marketing. An event that you have where you bring people together is marketing. Where you bring people together for some kind of activity where you're raising money as well, or maybe a volunteer activity. Those are things that are offline. Offline is anything eyeball to eyeball, face to face, human connection, human to human. And online is anything human through a computer connecting to another human. So we're connecting through some kind of digital means. That's for the large part what we mean by the differences between online and offline.
How do you decide what percentage of your website is dedicated to fundraising when your website also plays a critical educational resource component to your mission?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I say that anything related to your fundraising activity should be bundled into your cost per $1 raised. When a lot of websites, and all of our websites, should be resources of information that go beyond fundraising. We're actually providing and delivering upon services. The way that I would do that is I would figure out, okay, and at my organization, is the bulk of activity of our website focused on extending information out to the audiences from a fundraising perspective, or is the bulk of the focus on our website focused on just delivering services where we provide resources and help for people that are looking for help on this particular issue or topic? And the fact that that our website is so functional and useful and effective as a tool, then it encourages people to want to donate, but there's nothing on our website that is really a proponent of that. Long story short, I would choose one direction or the other and just put the bulk of the cost of the website one direction or the other. If the core focus of your website is to become a thought leader, where you're putting out information to become a thought leader and to be more known in the community for your topic or issue, I would consider that primarily a marketing tool, and I would put the bulk of it in, if not all of it, in my cost per $1 raised metric, because a website at its bottom line is building those connections and those relationships with your constituents, and I think that's the key.
All right, Jay, it looks like those are all the questions that I have here that are relevant for the whole audience. So I'm going to turn things back over to you to wrap up.
Julie, thank you so much. As you're closing down the session here in just a moment, there will be a survey that pops up. And just simply by filling out that survey, you will automatically get a copy of the presentation that showed up on the screen for you today. And you will also automatically get a link to the recorded version of this content. So all you have to do to get access to that is fill out that little survey. It'll take you about 30 seconds. And we would deeply appreciate if you would please take the time to do that. And I just one more time want to say thank you. I know there's so many things you could have done with your time today. The fact that you chose to spend part of your day with us, we do not take lightly. Julie and I, the entire crew here at Firespring, work diligently to make sure that the content we put in front of you is well researched, and we take a lot of time to make sure it has value and takeaway value at that. Keep in mind that if you're tweeting about the content we talked about today, you have up to 1 hour after the conclusion of the session to continue to send those tweets, and our online manager will go on and choose one of those and reach out to you on Twitter and connect with you, and then get your contact information to send a copy of the book. I'll just finish by saying that I believe sincerely that the noblest of all pursuits is to live one's life to impact others, and the fact that you have chosen to be part of the nonprofit profession says an awful lot about you and about your intentions and the good work that you do. So in case you don't hear it often enough, thank you for doing what you do. And again, thank you to Claire and your entire community for supporting the content in this webinar today. Have a fabulous afternoon. Now go take on the day.